All right, let's talk crypto. But not the crypto you see all over the news. We're going to tune out all that noise, all that hype. Today, we're diving into something totally different, a quieter, way more strategic approach to building wealth with digital assets. This is all based on the ideas in a book called The Silent Crypto Economy.
You know, this quote right here, it just nails it. It really sets the stage for everything we're about to cover. The idea is simple. While everyone's distracted by the flashy headlines, the real opportunity, well, that's happening behind the scenes. It's in this quiet space where it's not about hype, it's about knowledge, and you guessed it, patience.
So, you might be asking, why do we even need a different approach? Well, let's be real. For so many people, the typical crypto journey is just a roller coaster of crazy highs and lows. It's all driven by emotion, and honestly, that usually doesn't end well. So let's dig into why those common strategies just fall short so often.
Okay, look at this. It's like night and day, right? On one side, you've got the mainstream crypto world. It's all about media hype, crazy volatility, and making rash decisions based on emotion. But on the other side, that's the silent approach. We're talking about intrinsic value, long-term growth, and being strategic. It's the difference between gambling and actually investing.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? We've all seen it happen. When you chase the hype, you're almost always late to the party. You end up buying high when everyone's excited and then panic selling low when things get a little scary. The whole point of this silent approach is to break that cycle. It's about focusing on real substance, not just wild speculation.
Okay, so that leads us to the big question, right? What in the world are these silent assets we're talking about? Well, it's all about training your eye to see value where most people, well, they're not even looking.
So here's the formal definition, but let's break it down. Silent assets? They're not the flashy ones making headlines. They're flying under the radar. Maybe they're new, maybe they're just not marketed well, or maybe they serve a really specific purpose. The key thing is, their potential doesn't come from hype. It comes from what they actually do, their real, fundamental value.
All right, so how do you actually spot one of these in the wild? It's like being a detective. You look for clues. First, a low market cap. That tells you the masses haven't found it yet, which means there's more room to grow. Then, strong fundamentals. Does it solve a real problem? You also want to see an engaged community, people who are genuinely interested, not just speculators. And finally, check for active development. Is the team actually building something? Put these together and you might just have a hidden gem on your hands.
But hey, finding these assets, that's just part one. The real magic, the secret sauce, is what you do with them to build wealth. So this next part is all about the how-to, the actual strategies that make the silent economy work.
Forget about being glued to your screen, stressing out over every little price tick. No. The silent approach is all about passive income. The goal isn't to be a wizard who can time the market perfectly. It's to make your assets work for you, generating returns quietly in the background, day in and day out. And look, the process is actually pretty straightforward. Here it is in 4 steps. 1, you find a promising silent asset, using those clues we just talked about. 2, you pick your method, and we'll get into staking, lending, and yield farming in a second. 3, you put your assets to work in that protocol. And 4, this is the big one, you reinvest your earnings to let that beautiful thing called compounding work its magic. It's a simple loop, but man, is it powerful.
So, let's start with the first big strategy, staking. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a high-yield savings account, but for crypto. You lock up your tokens to help support and secure the network, and in return for that help, the network pays you rewards. So you're literally earning more tokens just for holding on and supporting a project you believe in.
Okay, next up is yield farming. Now this one's a little more involved, but it's super powerful. Basically, you're providing your funds, or liquidity, to a DeFi, that's decentralized finance protocol. Think of DeFi as all these new financial tools being built on the blockchain. By adding your money, you're essentially becoming a tiny little bank. And just like a bank, you get paid for it with interest and other token rewards.
So how does that actually work under the hood? Well, the core engine is something called a liquidity pool. Picture this. You take 2 different tokens, let's say some Ethereum and a stablecoin, and you deposit an equal value of both into a pool. That pool is what other people use to trade between those 2 assets. And here's the cool part. For providing that service, you get a small cut of every single transaction fee from that pool.
All right, so we've covered the what and the how. Now it's time to put it all together and build your own personal blueprint. Because success here isn't about luck. It's about having a disciplined plan that you can stick with for the long haul.
But before we build, we need to talk about defense. You have to know what to avoid. This stuff is absolutely crucial. First off, anonymous teams. If you can't see who's behind a project, that is a huge red flag. There's zero accountability. Also, anyone promising guaranteed returns? Run. In crypto, nothing is guaranteed. And finally, if a project is shady about its updates and progress, just steer clear. These are the warning signs you have to watch out for.
And to do all that, you're going to need the right tools. So here's your research toolkit. You've got blockchain explorers like Etherscan to see what's happening on-chain. You have analytics sites like CoinGecko to get the real numbers. You need to be in the community forums, Twitter, Discord, Telegram, to see what people are really saying. And a pro tip, just their GitHub. That tells you if the developers are actually, developing.
So let's put it all together. Here is your 5-step action plan. Step 1, asset selection. Find those undervalued gems. Step 2, portfolio allocation. Be smart, diversify, and manage your risk. Step 3, passive earning. Put those assets to work. Step 4, regular review. Keep an eye on how your projects are doing. And Step 5, adjust and reinvest. That's how you let compounding take over and really grow your portfolio.
This might be the most important slide of them all, because all these strategies and tools, they're powerful, but they mean nothing without the right mindset. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's the opposite. It takes patience to let things grow, discipline to not get shaken out of your plan, and a real commitment to never stop learning.
So, we'll leave you with this thought to chew on. The hype out there is so loud, isn't it? But what if the real, game-changing opportunity is silent? What if the smartest move is to just tune out all that noise and listen for the things that everyone else is missing? Something to think about.